Welcome back to the channel, Basketball Family. Today, we are staring down the barrel of one of the most explosive, controversial, and fundamentally paradigm-shifting weeks in the modern history of the National Basketball Association. We talk about brotherhood in this league. We talk about culture. We talk about players acting as a unified front against front offices. But what happens when that brotherhood completely shatters on a Las Vegas practice court? And what happens when the greatest prospect the game of basketball has ever seen decides to flip the entire financial structure of the league on its head? Grab your coffee, settle in, because today's deep dive is going to take us into the darkest corners of locker room animosity and the most complex, high-stakes boardroom negotiations the NBA has seen in a decade. We have a massive double feature for you today. First, we are dissecting a situation that has sent shockwaves from South Beach all the way to Milwaukee. You know the names. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro. For 7 years, these two were the golden children of Heat culture. They went to the NBA Finals together. They battled through the grueling bubble. They bled for Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. But folks, 7 years of loyalty, 7 years of shared sweat and tears, all but evaporated in the span of a few seconds under the neon lights of the Las Vegas Summer League. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro didn't just exchange words. They exchanged blows. Or rather, Bam delivered a blow that has left the entire basketball world completely speechless. We are looking at a modern-day Draymond Green and Jordan Poole situation. Tyler Herro has literally become Jordan Poole in this tragic reenactment of teammate-on-teammate violence, all because of a leaked social media post and the bitter aftermath of the blockbuster Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. We will break down exactly what was said, why Bam snapped, and what this means for both of their careers moving forward. But that is only half of the story today. While Bam and Tyler were tearing apart their legacy, a giant in San Antonio was quietly rewriting the future of NBA economics. Victor Wembanyama, the alien himself, the undisputed future face of the league, has just signed a 5-year, $252 million maximum rookie scale contract extension. Now, to the casual observer, you hear $252 million and you think, wow, the kid got paid. But if you look closely at the collective bargaining agreement, if you look at the Supermax escalators that Victor Wembanyama easily qualifies for after winning Defensive Player of the Year, you realize something shocking. He didn't just get paid. He took a massive, unprecedented pay cut. We are talking about leaving upwards of $50 million on the table. Why? Because the new CBA is forcing superstars to choose between their rightful market value and their team's ability to compete under the dreaded second apron. We're going to dive deep into why Wembanyama's selfless act has the National Basketball Players Association absolutely furious, why it sets a dangerous precedent for every other star in the league, and how it proves that the NBA's current financial system is fundamentally broken. Let's take a step back and really contextualize what we are witnessing. The NBA offseason is typically a time of hope. It is a period where franchises rebuild, retool, and dream of hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy. But this summer of 2026 has been utterly hijacked by drama that feels more like a cinematic thriller than a sports news cycle. The sheer volatility of player relationships has never been more apparent. Think about the bond between Bam and Tyler. Drafted just a couple years apart, they were supposed to be the foundational pillars that succeeded the Dwayne Wade era. They were the untouchables. Until they weren't. The business of basketball is notoriously cruel, but the personal fallout we just witnessed is on a completely different level. When a front office makes a monumental move, like acquiring a generational titan in Giannis Antetokounmpo, collateral damage is expected. Players get moved. Feelings get hurt. But for that hurt to manifest into a physical assault between two grown men who used to call each other brothers, that is a systemic failure of communication and respect. It forces us to ask hard questions about the psychological toll of trade rumors, the venom of social media, and the fragile egos of professional athletes. And juxtapose that fiery emotional explosion with the cold, calculated, and frankly unbelievable financial chess move executed by Victor Wembanyama down in Texas. Here you have a player who has the entire world in the palm of his enormous hands. He is a marketing juggernaut, an international icon, and a defensive savant the likes of which the sport has literally never seen. By all rights, he should be demanding every single penny that the salary cap allows. He should be triggering every Derrick Rose rule, every Supermax escalator, and draining the San Antonio Spurs' coffers dry. Instead, he orchestrated a financial sacrifice so profound that it has executive directors in the players' union slamming their fists on boardroom tables. This isn't just a generous hometown discount. This is a glaring indictment of the league's new restrictive salary cap rules. When the best player in the world has to actively suppress his own earning potential just so his general manager can afford to keep a competitive roster together, the system is fundamentally flawed. We are staring down the barrel of a potential labor strike in 2028 because of this exact contract. So, you see, today's episode is not a standard news recap. This is an exploration of the two extremes of the NBA ecosystem. On one side, the destructive power of pride and betrayal. On the other, the complex intersection of selflessness, union politics, and billion-dollar valuations. We will leave no stone unturned. We will read the leaked messages. We will analyze the CBA clauses. We will compare these moments to the ghosts of NBA past, from Draymond Green to Tim Duncan. Buckle up, because the landscape of the league has been irrevocably altered, and we're going to break down exactly how and why it happened. Let us dive into the abyss of the Vegas Summer League and the shattered friendship of Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro. Let us wind the clocks back and really understand the magnitude of what occurred in Las Vegas. To understand the punch, you have to understand the partnership. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro were the embodiment of heat culture. When Tyler was drafted in 2019, Bam was just stepping into his own as the full-time starting center. Together, they navigated the unprecedented challenges of the 2020 NBA bubble, carrying the Miami Heat all the way to the NBA Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers. Tyler was a swaggering, bucket-getting rookie with ice in his veins. Bam was the stoic, versatile defensive anchor. They complemented each other perfectly, both on and off the court. Fast forward through years of grinding, another Finals appearance in 2023, and over 400 games played side by side. They were the guys. In fact, in a now haunting vodcast appearance, Tyler once asked Bam which teammate would stand by in the fight. Bam didn't hesitate. He chose Tyler, citing their long history and deep bond. Tyler agreed, saying he'd be right there with him. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The reality of the NBA is that loyalty is a highly conditional concept. The Miami Heat, desperate to maximize Jimmy Butler's waning window and capitalize on their gritty culture, pulled off the unthinkable this summer. They traded for two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. But a move of that magnitude requires a massive sacrifice. For months, Tyler Herro's name was dragged through the mud in trade rumors. Every time a star became available, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell, Tyler was a hypothetical sacrificial lamb. All the while, Bam Adebayo sat comfortably, protected by the organization, universally viewed as an untouchable asset, and rewarded with a massive contract extension paying him over $50 million a year. Human nature is a fickle thing. Resentment is a slow-acting poison. According to reports in the Miami Herald, players in the locker room, including Herro, began to quietly resent Bam's golden child status. Why was Bam immune to the ruthless business of basketball, while Tyler was dangled like trade bait every Tuesday? When the Giannis trade finally went down and Tyler was shipped off to Milwaukee Bucks, the dam broke. Tyler, finally free from the restrictive PR machine of the Miami Heat, let his true feelings slip. It started subtly. A post on social media highlighting the NBA's least efficient mid-range shooters conveniently featured Bam Adebayo. A petty jab, sure, but nothing unheard of. But then, the private conversation leaked. A fan on social media defended Bam, calling him a top-tier defender who gives you 20 points and 10 rebounds. Tyler's response, leaked for the world to see, was devastating. He questioned whether someone should be paid $60 million a year to be a top-tier defender on some nights. When pressed if he was talking about Bam, Tyler coyly replied that he didn't say any names. But everybody knew, Bam knew, and Bam Adebayo, a man known for his discipline and restraint, saw red. This brings us to a fateful morning in a practice gym at a Las Vegas hotel during the 2026 Summer League. The details, reported by ESPN's Shams Charania, paint a grim picture. Bam approached Tyler regarding those leaked comments. Words were exchanged. The tension, built up over months of trade rumors and contractual jealousy, boiled over, and Bam Adebayo struck Tyler Herro in the face. This was not a shoving match. This was an altercation that required immediate intervention. Tyler's AU coach reportedly had to confront Bam, and Tyler was heard screaming at his former brother as security escorted him out of the gym. The NBA world immediately drew the parallel. We have seen this before. In 2022, Draymond Green completely knocked out Jordan Poole in a Golden State Warriors practice. That punch ruined the Warriors' season, shattered their chemistry, and ultimately derailed Jordan Poole's career in Golden State, leading to his unceremonious exile to Washington. Tyler Herro has effectively become Jordan Poole. He was a young, flashy, highly paid guard who talked a little too much trash to the established, defensive-minded veteran who felt his respect was being challenged. The difference here? They are no longer on the same team. But the psychological damage remains. Tyler is now stepping into a Milwaukee Bucks locker room, surrounded by intense pressure. He has to prove he is more than just collateral damage in the Giannis trade. He has to prove he isn't the victim of a bullied narrative. And what about Bam? The enforcer of Heat culture lost his cool in the most public, embarrassing way possible. True power, as the saying goes, lies in restraint. Bam is significantly larger than Tyler. A physical confrontation was never going to be a fair fight, as one anonymous NBA player bluntly told ESPN. Even Draymond Green, the man who authored this specific brand of teammate violence, weighed in, pointing out the hypocrisy of Heat veterans like Udonis Haslem, who previously criticized Draymond but are now silent on Bam. The whole situation is an ugly, unnecessary stain on what should be a celebratory time in Miami. Bam gets to play with Giannis, but he does so with the shadow of this altercation hanging over his leadership credentials. Now let's pivot. Let's travel from the chaotic, pride-fueled drama of Las Vegas to the calculated, high-stakes financial war room in San Antonio, Texas. If Bam and Tyler showed us the ugly side of player egos, Victor Wembanyama is showing us the terrifying reality of the new NBA economy. Victor Wembanyama is not normal. We know this. We call him the alien. He is doing things on a basketball court that defy physics, logic, and history. But what he just did off the court is equally unprecedented, and has the National Basketball Players Association ready to declare war. Here is the situation. Because Victor Wembanyama was drafted first overall, he was locked into a standard rookie scale contract. But this summer, he became eligible for his rookie extension. Given his immediate dominance, including winning Defensive Player of the Year, Wembanyama easily met the criteria for the Derrick Rose rule, which allows a player coming off their rookie deal to sign a supermax extension worth 30% of the team's salary cap, rather than the standard 25%. With the NBA's new astronomical television deals kicking in, projections had Wemby's supermax extension easily eclipsing $300 million over 5 years. It was supposed to be a formality. You hand the alien a blank check, and you thank your lucky stars he wears your jersey. But when Shams Charania broke the news, the numbers didn't add up. 5 years, $252 million. No supermax escalators. No 30% bump. Victor Wembanyama willingly left approximately $50 million on the negotiating table. He intentionally took a massive pay cut. To the fans in San Antonio, this is the ultimate act of loyalty. It echoes the selflessness of Tim Duncan, who famously took less money during his career to help the Spurs build championship rosters around him. Wembanyama is prioritizing winning over personal wealth. By taking less money, his annual cap hit will be significantly lower, hovering around $43 million in its first year instead of skyrocketing into the 50s. This gives the San Antonio Spurs front office the precious financial flexibility needed to sign high-level role players, retain key veterans, and build a legitimate juggernaut around their generational centerpiece. But while the fans are cheering, the players' union is seething. Why? Because Victor Wembanyama didn't just negotiate a contract. He exposed a fatal flaw in the NBA's collective bargaining agreement. The new CBA introduced a heavily scrutinized second apron, a harsh financial threshold that severely penalizes teams for spending too much money. If a team crosses the second apron, they lose their mid-level exception. They can't trade first-round picks, their draft picks get frozen or moved at the end of the first round, and they face catastrophic luxury tax bills. It is designed to create parity, but in reality, it operates as a hard cap that destroys organically built contenders. The NBPA's perspective is clear and justified. Why should a franchise that drafts well, develops its players, and discovers a generational talent be forced to dismantle its roster because they are forbidden from paying their players their true market value? The system is essentially telling Victor Wembanyama that if he takes the $300 million he rightfully earned by being the best defender on the planet, his team will be financially paralyzed, and he will not win championships. That is extortion by policy. The players' union is terrified because Wembanyama just set a terrifying precedent. If the greatest prospect in sports history is willing to forfeit $50 million to appease the salary cap gods, what's going to happen to the next star who asks for a max contract? Front offices will point directly to San Antonio and say, Wemby took a pay cut for the good of the team. Are you not a team player? The burden of roster construction has been unfairly shifted from the billionaire owners and general managers directly onto the shoulders of the players. This is exactly why David Kelly, the executive director of the NBPA, is holding press conferences and sending warning shots across the bow of the NBA front office. The union is signaling that they are prepared to opt out of the collective bargaining agreement at their earliest opportunity in October 2028. Wembanyama's contract is the ultimate proof that the current system is untenable. The San Antonio Spurs are valued at over $4 billion. The league is raking in billions from media rights. There is absolutely no moral or logical reason why a 22-year-old phenom should have to subsidize his billionaire owner's payroll just to ensure his team has a decent backup point guard. Yet, that is the reality we live in. Wembanyama made a calculated, incredibly mature decision to sacrifice personal wealth for competitive glory. He knows that his off-court endorsements, his $100 million deal with Nike, his partnerships with Louis Vuitton, will make him a billionaire regardless of his NBA salary. He can afford to lose $50 million. But most players cannot. And that is the danger. The alien is so far above the rest of the league, both physically and financially, that his decisions break the very fabric of the established norms. So, we have two contrasting stories that perfectly encapsulate the modern NBA. In one corner, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro, victims of a ruthless trade market, letting their egos and pride destroy a 7-year brotherhood in a fit of violent rage. It is a cautionary tale about the toxic combination of social media, millions of dollars, and wounded pride. Tyler Herro now faces the daunting task of reinventing himself in Milwaukee, forever branded by the punch he took in Vegas, praying he doesn't fade into obscurity the way Jordan Poole did in Washington. In the other corner, Victor Wembanyama, transcending ego and pride to make a financial sacrifice that will echo through the halls of collective bargaining negotiations for the next decade. A player so focused on dominance that he is willing to leave generational wealth behind, inadvertently sparking a labor war between the players and the league. Both of these events will define the trajectory of the upcoming NBA season. When the Miami Heat travel to Milwaukee, the atmosphere will be toxic. It will be Giannis facing his former team, but more importantly, it will be Bam and Tyler sharing a court for the first time since the altercation. The tension will be palpable, the security will be tight, and the basketball world will be watching every single interaction. Meanwhile, the Spurs will quietly go to work, armed with financial flexibility and a superstar who has mathematically guaranteed their competitive relevance for the next half-decade. Wembanyama is playing a different game than everyone else. He isn't just trying to win MVPs. He is trying to build a dynasty, and he just paid $50 million out of his own pocket to buy the bricks. As we wrap up this massive deep dive, we have to look forward and ask ourselves what the long-term ramifications of this chaotic week will actually be. The NBA is a soap opera that never truly sleeps, but even by its own dramatic standards, the events involving Bam, Tyler, and Wemby are historically significant. Let us start with the human element. The Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro situation is a tragedy of modern sports culture. We spend so much time analyzing these players as assets on a spreadsheet, debating their trade value and their contract efficiency, that we often forget they are human beings with immense pride. Tyler Herro felt discarded. He felt that his sacrifices for Heat culture were ignored while Bam was elevated to a protected status. His frustration leaked out in the form of petty online jabs, which is a modern athlete's weapon of choice. But Bam Adebayo's response crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Violence between teammates, or even former teammates who share that kind of bond, breaks a sacred trust. The burden of proof now falls entirely on Tyler Herro. The comparison to Jordan Poole is not just a catchy headline. It is a very real, terrifying career path. When Draymond Green punched Jordan Poole, Poole lost his swagger. He lost his standing in the locker room. And when he was shipped off to a new environment, he crumbled under the pressure of having to prove he was a franchise player. Tyler is stepping into Milwaukee alongside Damian Lillard, who ironically was the player Miami refused to trade Tyler for years ago. The psychological weight on Herro's shoulders right now is immense. If he struggles, the narrative will immediately solidify that Bam broke his spirit. If he thrives, it will be the ultimate revenge tour. But the innocence of that 2020 bubble run, that youthful joy they shared, is dead and buried. Heat culture has a dark side, and we just saw it in plain sight. On the completely opposite end of the spectrum, we have Victor Wembanyama. If Bam and Tyler showed us the fragility of player egos, Wemby showed us an almost frightening level of maturity and strategic foresight. However, as fans, we have to be careful about romanticizing Wembanyama's pay cut. Yes, it is amazing for San Antonio Spurs. Yes, it shows that he wants to win more than anything else in the world, but is a glaring red flag for the health of the league. We should not want a league where the best players are punished for being the best. The collective bargaining agreement was supposed to prevent super teams from forming in major markets, but instead, it is penalizing organically built teams in smaller markets from keeping their homegrown talent together. When the executive director of the NBPA is holding emergency press conferences on the same day a player signs a $250 million contract, you know the system is fractured. Wembanyama's sacrifice is going to be weaponized by every front office in the league against every other star player. And that is why a labor strike in 2028 feels almost inevitable at this point. The players are realizing that the second apron is a financial straitjacket, and they are not going to sit idly by while their earning potential is artificially suppressed in the name of forced parity. So, as we prepare for the upcoming season, keep your eyes on these two storylines. They are going to simmer in the background of every game. Watch how Bam Adebayo leads a Miami team that now has Giannis, but must do so after severely compromising his own moral high ground. Watch how Tyler Herro responds to adversity in Milwaukee. And watch how the San Antonio Spurs utilize the extra $50 million in cap space that their French prodigy so graciously gifted them. The league has fundamentally shifted this week. Relationships have been broken, financial precedents have been set, and the stage for the next decade of NBA basketball has been dramatically lit. Thank you all so much for sticking with me through this extensive deep dive. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Was Bam justified in confronting Tyler? Is Tyler destined to repeat Jordan Poole's downfall? And is Victor Wembanyama making a massive mistake by leaving that much money on the table? Drop your takes down below. Until next time, keep watching the game within the game. Peace.